Welcome. I'm Aaron Jack, and today we're going to be on with Kenny Schachter. Just such an amazing person to be here with us all. NFTs, art, and just knowing what the future is for all of us. Welcome. We're here at Doing Good HQ, and I'm excited for today. So thank you so much for joining. We will explore what is today. Thanks, Kenny.
Hi.
Hey. I'm so glad to have you back on back on the Aaron Jack show here at another place and time, a little over a year later. You were on my 100th episode last February 1st, the first day I got on Clubhouse right before, and you said NFTs, and I was like, what are you talking about with all this fungibility? And my life has changed since then. I've full on gone non-fungible, and here we are with a fully non-fungible episode.
So
Tell
you're a
me, what's happened in the
non-fungible
last
person
year?
now.
What?
You're a non-fungible human being.
Exactly. Look what you've done. So tell me, what's been up in the last year? Because this metadata show you had here in Berlin, it was amazing. I came to see you. We met in person. It was purely amazing. It was a non-fungible experience. What's been going on for you in the last year that has driven you to today and into the future?
Well, I think like a lot of people who are digitally minded in the creation of their art and just the things that excite them, keep them busy, it's been a life-changing year for most people that are involved in the space. So, I mean, for me, it's been kind of like a war. It's been a battle with my previous life and my new life. So, yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of projects. I've released a Crypto Mutts, a series of 10,000 NFTs to join an arts club. I've been in 2 Basel art fairs, the Cologne Art Fair, all with NFTs, most recently in Miami. I'm doing an upcoming project in the Independent Art Fair and hopefully again in the Basel Art Fair in June. So really, I mean, when you boil it down, nothing has really changed in my interests. I'm interested in art and teaching and sharing information and helping people. So in that regard, nothing's changed at all. It's just the way that I do it has completely transformed.
Wow. So tell me more about this transformation, like in the way, because I think you've put it very interesting through your new artistic practices and also how you're transferring the knowledge, not just to your students, but to the rest of us in the world. What's changed in that, and how have NFTs played into that role?
Well, I'm self-taught when it comes to art, and the way that I was able to painstakingly claw a role for myself uh, was through my writing and my curatorial projects. And I've always made art along the way, but it's never been really taken that seriously, even by myself sometimes, I should say. But my writing was mainly focused on covering art fairs and auctions and the machinations of the art world. I'm kind of drifting around in my office right now. You get to see a lot of shit. You can keep track of what I'm saying. But in the past year, I've written a dozen articles on NFT and the state of technology, and I'm in the middle of writing one that was due last week for ArtNet. I've given literally dozens of lectures at, most recently in Switzerland in the Engadine Art Talk with Hans Ulrich Obrist and the head of the Pompidou and the Kunsthaus in Zurich and various other great speakers. And I'll be lecturing at the University of Zurich on at 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday because I don't feel like going back to Switzerland. But I basically, Frieze Art Fair is coming up any day. This is probably the biggest change in my life. I don't even know when fucking Frieze opens. I'm not interested in just chasing art fairs and auctions anymore. And I never set out to be this kind of Robin Hood figure that was stealing information from rich people and giving it to the aspiring rich. But that journalistic beat was a lot of fun, and I uncovered a load of exclusive stories about the art market that no one would ever dream of talking about. It got me into a lot of trouble with lawsuit threats and people trying to literally beat me up in public and threatened to kill me, believe it or not. But since then, I have no interest in chasing art fairs unless I'm in them. And I have no interest in writing about auctions or anything like that anymore. I'm more interested in, I mean, my interest was always making art and teaching and writing. And that's what I'm doing right now, as I just tripped over one of my sculptures on the floor. And that's what I'm doing right now. And that's all I'm interested in doing. And NFTs are nothing, I've always said. They're just a mechanism to sell digital art. But before that, no one took digital art seriously because it was never fetching the highest price that a video ever fetched at auction was Bill Viola, $700,000, and a Nam June Paik sculpture that contained video went for 1.3 million. And yes, that's a hell of a lot of money, but that pales in comparison to what paintings go for. I mean, paintings by 25 to 30-year-old artists these days at auction. So for me, I'm interested in a term that I coined NFTism, and that's really the community of people that have been drawn together through the network of NFTs and Web3. And so it's been a very transformative year. Now I have a whole new host of enemies and haters and the trolls that have sort of sprung up in the fine art world that are resisting the change because it's kind of a defense mechanism in human nature to fight change. And people are scared of giving up territory, access, and control in the marketplace to this new forum to buy and sell digital art. But I'm really just interested, I'm not interested in the money per se. I'm interested in making art, having an audience for what I do, and sharing all the information that I've painstakingly garnered in the past year. I've been studying every day for a year and a half. I had no interest in crypto, never bought Ethereum, never bought any crypto until I started making NFTs, and I still never bought it. Somebody gave me an Ethereum to kick me off, like I said, a year and a half ago. And since then, it's just been an incredibly fascinating journey, one that changes with great rapidity. And I'm just really thrilled that I found a role for myself. And I'm not young, and it gives hope to people of all ages that they could participate and and find a way to implement doing the things that they love the most.
Well, I love what you're saying about participation, to moving from information to participation. Maybe you could share a little bit about what you see in terms of all ages participating in this new economy and this new way of understanding art, as you see resistances on all sides. But how can people participate? How can your audience participate that's out there watching now, and new audiences into the future as they watch where we are right now?
Well, I think that the fine art world, which is where I'm coming from, is a very unwelcoming environment. And like I said, I'm self-taught. I never took any art classes until I was teaching them. But the art world is just a very exclusionary, hierarchical place, and very unforgiving as well. So I've had a do-it-yourself mentality since the first day that I curated an exhibition or even collected a piece of art, which even that the art world makes difficult. Rocking up to a gallery to buy art is work in and of itself, ridiculously or not ridiculously it is. Anyway, so I mean, in the last 10 plus years, I've embedded my digital animations and videos into my writing. So I think that you cannot rely on anyone ever. And I never had that sensibility. So when I just gave studio critiques at the Art Institute of Chicago 2 months ago, something I noticed absolutely changed in how I was encouraging and speaking to the students. I would never tell a student today, a young artist, that they should try to find gallery representation. In the past, what you would say to aspiring students at one of the best graduate schools in the world, you would say to find like-minded artists and find galleries that you share the sensibility with, go to every opening, ingratiate yourself with the dealer, get to know some of the other artists in the gallery, and then wiggle your way into a position where you could potentially enter via a group show and find your way to representation. But in a million years like today, it just would not occur to me to even recommend an artist to try to fuck the galleries. And again, like, I have nothing but the utmost respect for art dealers because it's a hapless task. And I find that art dealers are among the greatest art lovers because it's such a difficult, painstaking shit job, because artists are always trying to find better opportunities for themselves. Galleries, small galleries, nurture artists only to have them poached by bigger artists. There's the relentless merry-go-round of art fairs, which has been, it's been changed by the tragedy of COVID, of which I'm a long-term two-time sufferer and suffering right now with a terrible chronic headache. But I just think that I'm interested in people effectuating their desires and their dreams. And art galleries are just not the mechanism through which a young artist should even think about doing such a thing. Because of this tragedy of COVID and the economic changes that are underfoot, there's so many empty storefronts. I would encourage artists to they have to take things into their own hands. They have to, through social media, to push the expression of their work, create their own exhibitions, and mint NFTs. And yes, it's very expensive to mint NFTs with gas prices if you're going to work on Ethereum, but there's Solana and Tezos and Polygon. There's more and more outlets to get involved without relying on the expensive Ethereum network protocol. But at the same time, you have to develop your own audience. And that's a very, very incremental people just want a quick fix. Everyone thinks, oh, I'll jump into NFTs and I'll get rich. Art, I've always said, is a very slow burning process. I've been involved for 33 years. And for the first year in my career, I've made a living off of my art. So it wasn't really NFTs that made that happen. NFTs facilitated the capacity for me to sell my work, but it's been a relentless, effort. This Sisyphusian, Herculean effort of facing adversity year after year after year and not being dissuaded from doing what I love to do. So it was never money that motivated me for a single day. I never stopped. It was just pure perseverance and tenacity of just never giving up. The doggedness and stick-to-itiveness. And really, you have to love, crazy passion and love for art. And if that's how you feel, then you should know already that you have to, as Malcolm X said, employ any means necessary to accomplish and achieve what you want. And as far as let's just say the basic, every day there are better and better tools at hand. There's Hikotnung for creating NFTs on Tezos, Polygon, Solana, much cheaper smart contracts to deploy. If you want to use the Ethereum route, there's a new app from a company called Manifold. So it's studio.manifold XYZ. And you don't even have to hire a smart contract developer. This app is free and it deploys the smart contract for you. But again, you can't just think you'll mint an NFT and it's going to sell. You have to sell it like everything else. So, again, NFTs are not a panacea. They're not they're not the key to lifetime, to making life an easy life in the arts or a lucrative life. They're just a tool for you to get what you want, and you have to figure out how to get it, like everything.
What would you tell young artists now? So you wouldn't tell them to go to the gallery. How do you see a young artist going forward in this time and space to develop, the followers or people to purchase the art digitally and engage in that world and to go to the ends of their dreams? And how do you see them creating
You have to
strategic
go to the
partnerships? And
ends of the world. I mean,
Mhm.
when I started, like, it's like I'm so old when I remember when hamburgers were 5 cents. Well, I don't exactly remember that, but I do remember that when I started and I wanted to curate an exhibition or try to show my work to someone, I would have to send a 1.5-inch photographic slide in an envelope to a gallery or a curator to try to get my work seen. So now you have the advent of social media, which is turned upside down. Now you blur the geographical distinctions or boundaries of being an artist. You can have your work seen all over the world through social media. So the old art world lives on Instagram, the traditional art world, and the digital art world lives on Twitter and Discord. So number one, you should never have a private Instagram account. That's ridiculous. If you're an artist and you want your work to be seen, you need to have a public account, skip the food and the dogs and the holidays, and focus on your art. Obviously, it doesn't exclusively have to be anything, and I'm no one to say how anyone should conduct their lives, but band together with you have to nurture audiences. This has been for me 3 decades long project. Someone writes to me the other day like, oh, I have a tiny amount of followers in relationship to the public exposure I've had through my writing and my projects, but it's a difficult long haul project, and there's no quick fix to anything, especially in the fine art world. So you just have to band together with like-minded people, with your friends, take over a temporary space. All the shows that I've been doing since NFTs have been hybrid shows, incorporate paintings and sculpture and digital art and videos and monitors and NFTs. Band together with your friends and share contact lists. And really, there's no, like I said, there's no easy solution for any of this. It has to be developed along with time and with great, great effort. And I mean, look, I've had some incredible successes, knock on wood, over the past year and a half, but I haven't sold an NFT in God knows how long. And, it's always going to be a hustle. It never gets easier. I just turned I can't even bear to say it. I just turned 60 years old, even though I'm as mature as a 12-year-old on a good day. But it's not that I'm old. I've never been more vitalized and more energized by the tools that are at my disposal for me to effectuate the life that I want to lead. I just acted in a short film. I played Larry Gagosian on Sunday. I'm doing a documentary about my life in the arts and NFTism. That I've been working on for over a year. All of these great speaking engagements and opportunities have all arisen. NFTs have played a partial role in that, but it's also, it's just a kind of accumulation of the devotion and dedication to art. So you need to focus on what you love and what you care about. And then from there, you try to utilize the tools at your disposal to effectuate that. And there's no, like I said, I can't give you a recipe. If anything, it'll be a recipe for disaster because I still face them on a daily basis and constantly make an ass of myself trying. But, like I said, these tools that artists have at their disposal today weren't even like a glimmer in the eye of possibility 25 years ago. So in a way, things are still as difficult as they always were, but at the same time, the audience for art has increased more in the past 25 years than the previous 250 years. And also, I know, don't get me wrong, I am very cognizant of all the negatives in this crypto space, all the environmental disasters of Bitcoin and Ethereum mining, all of the scams, all of the, everything from the tax evasion and money laundering and copyright infringement. I know all of that. but the same shit goes on everywhere. That's human nature. There's a Bell's curve of integrity and morality in the world. Yes, this is a good chunk of activity on the blockchain today, but these things will be dealt with. They're being dealt with now. There's Tezos, Polygon, Solana. There's more and more of a, I'm working, I want to do a conference instead of the big successful cash grab that I'm participating in, NFT NYC. I want to do something about the content of the great quality artworks, the artists that are utilizing the blockchain to make incredible conceptual art. So I'm working on a project called NFT ART, which would forget all the hippos and the apes and the punks and the chickens and the unicorns and focus on great people doing community-based projects to help people, projects to help underprivileged people to use technology to help address some of the problems in the world, and not just focus on the money and be very aware of the shortcomings of this space. So I just think, like I said, I'm surrounded by art, as you could see, and I'm enveloped by art, and I just want to share the positives of this space and how it could benefit the lives of artists and others. I don't know why people always have to just constantly demean it, diminish it, and degrade it. It's boring.
Yeah, because that seems like a part of any world, is that there's negatives to any of it, but you seem to be making huge positive strides towards what it can be in the future and inspiring others through your teaching. Maybe you could share a couple bits that you would teach to your students now, or that you are teaching to your students now, that the greater world should know about. Like, what's happening and how can they get involved into what's going to be happening in the next year?
Well, I mean, like I said, there's no quick fix. And the main thing is to focus on what your goals are and define your interests and then set about achieving them. So I've been doing this for well over 30 years. And, I pretty much narrowed it down to writing, teaching, and making work. And I employ all of the different, tools that are at my disposal to help achieve this. So really, there is no recipe for this, for what you do or how you do it. Just, use what's out there. So if you want to mint NFTs, they're going to get swallowed up in the sea of OpenSea. You have to find a way to communicate them. So you have to go on Twitter. You have to join Discord. The best thing to do is to find people with coinciding shared interests that you could work with. And, I think that the word community is one of the most empty terms in the NFT space, and it's overused and under thought out. But you have to just, like I said, get together with other people that share your interests, and then just keep doing your work. If you're making painting and you just have the smell of oil paint infused in your nostril hairs, NFTs may not be the right thing for you. Or if you're sculpting away in clay and ceramics, NFTs may not be the right thing. It's not the right thing for everyone. If NFTs died tomorrow, if the whole crypto market imploded, which wouldn't be such a bad thing to get rid of some of the dreck, and we did have a 60% drop in the market over the last month. It's since rebounded about 20%. But I really couldn't give a rat's ass about the price of Ethereum. And the fact is, I started my career in art in the late 80s when there was a boom, which was quickly followed by one of the most radical, I wouldn't say the market constricted in 1990 to 1996. It all but evaporated. People have such a short-term memory. And even in 2008, in what's the Great Recession or whatever it was called, that lasted for a matter of a few years. So the thing is that if NFTs disappeared, if those three letters, which are now tattooed on my arm, if NFTism was to just evaporate, nothing would change in the day-to-day practice of my life. I would still be making digital art. I would still be making videos. I made animations in the early 90s that I showed in galleries where I took over the space and made the show myself, because no one would dare let me do it in their spaces. But that didn't set me back, and that didn't dissuade me from chasing this dream that I had to carve out a life in the arts. And this was, if I had to sell the art of other people, which is like, I made a piece with the word dealer on my face, because that was just a way in the end for the art world to write me off and dismiss me. Oh, he's a dealer, he can't be an artist, he can't be a teacher, he can't be a writer. I can be whatever I want. As long as I'm not hurting anyone or breaking the law, it's my prerogative to make a fool of myself. And I engage in that regularly. But anyway, like I was saying, if crypto disappeared tomorrow and the blockchain was exploited, hacked, everyone had their wallets emptied, still people that make digital art would obviously continue unabated, 100%. From the ashes of that would people like Simone de Puri was in this documentary, The Great Auctioneer, called The Price of Everything, and he said, you know, it's great that art is expensive, because that way it gets valued and it gets preserved. And I wrote, it's the art that isn't expensive that needs to be preserved. We all value Picasso. Nothing's ever going to change in that department, but it's the unsung heroes. Some of the artists, my favorite artists that have been the most pivotal in the formation of my art outlook and larger view are artists like Vito Acconci, who died a few years ago, destitute. There's still very small market for his work, even though he's collected by institutions the world over. You still could hardly give away his work. Same with Paul Tech, although his prices have grown a little higher. But before he died of AIDS in 1988, he was working in a supermarket after being in multiple international exhibitions. And that was in the 70s and 80s before social media. So he lived in Europe, and no one in America, where he was from, had any idea about his work. The fact is that I think on a certain level, because this shit by Beeple sold for so much money, I couldn't care less about the work, although I don't begrudge anyone for achieving success and his dedication. It's that it brought people's awareness to the fact that digital art could be collected, that there could be an underlying value to digital art, and this was never the case. If you wanted to sell digital videos, you'd have to put them on a USB stick and sell them like that, and it was just very difficult, hard to collect. So I think out of the ashes, if the whole blockchain, if all the, decentralized pods of computers were all like, disappeared in a poof, still out of the ashes would rise the knowledge that a framework could exist to transact digital artworks. And that's really what's key here. It's for people that we live in I'm not a coder. I can't spin an algorithm. I'm interested in the culture of technology. We live in a world, I'm sitting here, I can't get my fucking scanner to work. Over the holidays, I lost a hard drive, and Apple helped finish off the fragments of whatever could be saved. I lost 2 years of archives, and I'm sitting here trying to get my scanner to work because since I've retrieved my computer from the third company I sent it to get salvaged, I lost those files. And the fact is, we are so dependent on technology. If it wasn't for social media, as cheesy as it sounds, I'd have no friends. I mean, I have met hundreds of people through social media. I met you through social media. I met countless other people that I forged both personal and professional relationships with. We are so wildly dependent on technology. And screw Mark fucking Zuckerberg. I couldn't care less about him and his Meta, and I hope it falls flat on its face. And I was glad to see that he lost 20% of the value of his company. Screw those companies that are so fascistic in mentality and all about control and controlling information and stealing the privacy of users, and how these systems are engineered psychologically to exploit our weaknesses and manipulate the dopamine in our brains. I couldn't care less, but I am interested in the tools of technology. I've grown up with when the first home computers at the onset of Apple were like Heathkit home kits where you could build your computer, and the computing power contained on a laptop used to be cray research in a room full of these gigantic servers. The fact is that we live in a world defined by technology, and I'm interested in how that affects my life culturally and in all those respects, aesthetically. So one of my kids did this extraordinary video. He's working with artificial intelligence and to deal with issues of like spirituality and past life regression and all these wacky things fed through artificial intelligence. So I just think I'm interested in art and technology. I'm interested in how technology colors our everyday existence. So in those ways, like I say, people just need to you need to focus on what's important to you. And then the secondary notion, once you've, wrapped your arms around how you want to spend the rest of your life, then you go about getting it by any means. And whether it's NFTs or some other form which will surpass NFTs or evolve from that, you just have to, and looking for money, I'm not the person to speak to. I've lost as much money as I've ever made, to the consternation of my family, but that really should be the last thing you think about, and you should really just find your inner passion and what's important to you, and then go from there. I'm just going to answer my doorbell, but keep talking.
I love it. We'll meet someone. In the meantime, can you show us that tattoo?
Yeah, hang on 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Get the
Hello?
door.
Hello? Hi, can you just drop it at my door? Yeah. Thank you. Here's my bedroom.
I love it. I love it. You never know what's going to happen live.
No, not with me.
That's the way it should be.
Can you see that?
It's non-fungible.
Can you read that?
Oh, it's backwards. So
fake art is like a fake orgasm. As long as you don't know it's fake, it'll hang on your wall and make you happy. There's the tattoo.
Oh my God. Look at that tattoo. When did you get that one?
NFTism. Oh, I think back in, I don't know, 3 months ago.
Really? What inspired that, like taking it from just like an idea to actually getting it on you?
Because like I said, I invented that word. Not that that's any great. That and $1.50 or $2.50 will get you on the subway. But how my life has been so positively affected. Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, we're going to go downstairs. Somebody is persistent. And so, like I said, NFTs are nothing, but NFTism is the extraordinary. When I had the opening that you came to in Berlin, I hate opening. It's the only part of the art world that I don't like is art openings, because I learned over the course of time to reduce my expectations from low to zero, because having an opening, you're always worried about who's going to come, who's not going to come. You're always disappointed about the turnout, whether you sell something or not sell something. So at the opening to this NFT show in Berlin, first of all, it was paintings, sculptures, videos, photography, but thank you. He didn't get the notion of leaving the bag outside the door. But now you'll see some more.
Perfect.
This is my studio
God.
space. This is my selfie man sculpture.
Oh my God. There's more since last time. I've got it on my channel. For everybody out there, I've got the episode from last year where we took everybody around your space. Maybe even not this space, but upstairs, I guess.
Well, let me just say, this is a key. This is a really important point. I got all dressed for you today in my box.
Wow, look at that. Look at that.
The point is that even this sculpture, these all originated as digital files. So I think a really important aspect to some of the haters in the NFT space claim, this TV is not a pretentious, well, it is, but this was bought for an exhibition I had in 2018, and it's never been used, only ever to display video art. I've never even hooked it up as a television. The fact is that all of these photographic works, this wallpaper, this sculpture, every single thing began its life as a digital file. So one of the great, misconceptions about digital art is that it only exists on a phone or on a computer. No, the beauty of it is that it's very transportable and it doesn't take up very much physical space unless you want it to. These are paintings that have been derived from digital files and then fabricated. So, I mean, David Hockney said that crypto and NFTs are for small time swindlers. That was his quote. Yet he's the perfect example of what an NFT is. He makes iPad drawings. He just had an exhibition at the Royal Academy in London, and I would much rather own the file upon which he created this drawing than some shitty output from Pace Gallery, where they dictate the parameters of what the piece should physically take the form of. Why should that be dictated? It should be up to the end user how they want that piece to be hung, to be installed, whether it's 8 inches by 10 inches or a mural on the wall.
Wow. So that's a very interesting point that you bring up about how the end user in the art is displaying it, how they're showing it, how they're being a part of that process. How do you see that moving into the future as we look at NFTs in the art world, and then the collector, or however you describe that person that would be putting down the money?
Well, I mean, when you talk about what's the next phase with NFTs and technology, I think one of the most exciting spaces on how NFTs will evolve will be in the dedicated hardware within which to experience the art. So, I mean, there's one area where I think that we'll see a lot of inroads, and that will be like, for instance, the 3D holographic projection of art. And I've already seen pieces where an artist projects a 3D image floating in a space. And I think that would be a phenomenal advancement in displaying digital work through 3D projections in a physical space. You could take your sculpture with you on holiday and stick it right in the middle of your hotel room as a 3D projection. So that's one way. And the other way is, right now, the NFT market is comprised 70% of collectibles, like the punks, the apes, the hippos, the rhinos, and all that crap. And the rest is celebrities and sports stuff. And I just think that in terms of, one of the greatest areas for advancement and enlargement in participatory roles and content is fine artists getting more involved and moving into the NFT space and seeing the audience develop and mature, where, I mean, it's easy to sell a 1 of 10,000 than a 1 of 1. And that's an area that I would love to see transform. But again, a lot of times people are treating NFTs like substitutes for securities and JPEGs as, a new version of a stock certificate with a picture instead of a share. And I'm hopeful that in the future, the bar will rise and people will give more credence and spend more time trying to learn about art and artists.
Wow, that's a statement right there. Moving from collectibles and celebrity culture to learning about art and artists, and seeing what that future holds. And how do you see, as artists, collectors, creators of all types, moving that bar, helping realize that future, and being with you on that journey? Because that's certainly part of my journey, and that's why I'm so happy to have you here today. How do you see more people being involved in that future?
Well, I mean, it's a very grassroots, incremental process. And I'm like Johnny Appleseed. I'm spreading the word, piece by piece, word by word, lecture by lecture, project by project. And I've never the content of the art, of the NFTs. It's always about the money or about, these large scale series and the apes and all the popular projects, but you never see people spending the time and making the effort to explicate and to showcase the actual artists. I mean, some of the coolest things are like available for under $50 NFTs. There's an artist based in Berlin called Sarah Friend. She's extraordinary. There's another artist that I saw was listening today called 8-Bit Titty. Yes, I love the fact that NFTs render us all like children but this is an artist, and I incorporated the works of these artists in lectures and articles, and they've started to sell their work. So I mentioned I want to start an alternative to NFT NYC and call it NFT ART, and just have an international conference showcasing the work of what artists are up to, and not just talking about the cash grabby kind of stuff, and talking about some of the extraordinary works that are being, digital artworks of our time, that are beyond just these various collectible things. And it's this process. You need to educate, but you can never shove something didactically down someone's throat. You have to encourage people in a very, piecemeal basis, encourage people to trust their intuitive relationship to things and their instinct. And if people want to do it, great, but I'm certainly not going to be able to change anyone's mind. But, in my own way, I can just expose the work of artists and introduce the work of artists to people that collect. And, I gave a lecture last week in Switzerland and mentioned the work of a few people, and they managed to sell pieces directly as a result. So it's just a matter of more like-minded people jumping into the fray and getting involved and being proactive.
Wow. So how do you see, beyond the artists, because this involves a much larger community than just the artists themselves, how do you see that relationship between artists and maybe people outside of being an artist interacting and moving that forward? Because you said, they wouldn't necessarily go to a gallerist. How do you see, new strategic partnerships popping up into the future that might work for artists to help them along this journey? Or do you see the artist kind of being alone and just working with their fellow artist friends? Or do you see there being partnerships and teams along the way?
No, I think collaboration is so very important, and I see a lot of innovation in the NFT space. I think another trend which will be happening will be like the development of participatory smart contracts, where artists could work together and share in the proceeds of projects more smoothly and seamlessly through the development of smart contracts. So when I had my exhibition in Berlin, I did a conversation with Daniel Heiss, who works at a museum, the ZKM Museum, which was started 30 plus years ago as a media museum, one of the most progressive, innovative museums in all of Europe. And Daniel Heiss came from he worked for the museum for decades before he was finally hired full time, and now working as a curator in technology. And the museum was one of the first in the world to collect NFTs. They own one of my crypto mutts. And one show they did, which was astounding, he created a makeshift Bitcoin mine with a couple of computers that didn't cost more than $1,500 each. And from the few Bitcoins that sputtered out of this jerry-rigged makeshift machine, he took the proceeds and used to start the collection of the museum. Most recently, it was written about that he sent two punks away to a dead address that were forever lost in a state of suspension. I broke that story when we were doing a podcast together during my show. But I don't think museums should think about collecting NFTs. I think museums have to collect NFTs. It's their responsibility to collect NFTs, because if you're a modern contemporary museum, NFTs are part of contemporary life and contemporary art. And whether you like it or not, they're here to stay in one form or another. Digital art has been around since the 50s at least, and it's going to continue to be forever ingrained in our lives and our society and our culture. So with the Crypto Mutt project I did, the idea was to kind of seduce and coax people into the fine art space through a series of collectible NFTs. So I have a Discord that's very active, and we discuss all kinds of things. I'm there every single day, and I'm starting a website, and we're airdropping NFTs to people, having meetings with people. At the opening that I met you at, about a year after we initially met on an Instagram Live, there were some mathematicians, coders. So I think that NFTs, for the first time in my 33 plus years in the art world, I've never seen an opening that, first of all, there was such an active level of engagement and communication and conversation. I've never seen that in my entire life. I mean, every time I started to talk about the process of NFTs, a group of people swarmed around me. The same thing happened in Miami. It was insane. People want to know. No one in the art world talks to people. They talk down to you, or I mean, they don't talk with you or engage in a give and take conversation. The art world is just such a static, almost like a dead space. And also like this notion of a piece of art exalted in a museum on a pedestal. Marcel Duchamp said artwork in a museum should have a shelf life of 50 years. So I think that, no, artists shouldn't just stick together. You have to reach out and you have to grab your audience by the throat. You have to literally, one by one, lure them into the space. If you have to drag them by their coattails, you have to proactively, engage and use every means, from Discord, Telegram, Twitter. The fine art world, as I mentioned, world lives on Instagram, and the tech world is on Twitter and Discord. You have to go. It's my obligation to the holders of my NFTs that I have to be in Discord every day, and I have to engage. It's the first time, I think, in history where the space between the artist and the collector, the buyer, has conflated to the point where, there's a direct line of communication between these two that never existed before. There were always intermediaries. There are situations of galleries never telling the artist who the ultimate buyer of their work was, not disclosing the identity of the buyers, never open means of discourse between the artist and the collector. That situation, that status quo is finished. I mean, it's incredible the way the levels of engagement have forever changed, and that will never go back. And I mean, I've heard of situations where galleries don't even disclose to the artist additional opportunities to showcase their work because the galleries didn't want to give up the control of having additional works to sell. So I just think that we're in things change, and the levels of change that were accelerated by the lockdown during COVID, the rapidity of change and development has been historically profound and unprecedented, and there's no going back. Things will sure change, get better, get worse, move to the side, move up, but the levels of engagement and the opportunities to reach beyond this kind of stifling, hermetic, tiny little art world is changing really fast. So the art world can't preach to tech people and say, oh, you don't know about, art history, and you don't know this, and that's a stupid mechanism for communication and for dealing with things. And I think that, like, I humbled myself to like starting my entire life from zero and spending much of the last year and a half every single day studying and learning and speaking to people and reading about this new universe and this new world order, and it's nothing short of that. And it's been an extraordinary learning curve, and I've just loved every part of it and enjoyed the process so much. The reason I teach and write is to force myself to look deeper and to think more and to learn about it. And then I love to share it with people.
Wow. I love everything you're saying, from reading to learning, smart contracts, collaboration, and just a reminder, we're here at the Doing Good HQ channel, where if you meant there, they have up to 200 collaborators that can work on a smart contract. So I'm Aaron Jack. You can reach out to me and we can maybe find you a place on the beta as a creator. So for everybody else out
Beta
there,
creator.
thank you. Yes. uh, and
You
we
should
have this
also feel free to
kitty.
get in touch with me through Instagram or,
Yes.
I can't help you sell an NFT because I struggle and hustle to sell my own. But if there's any way, every time I lecture, I always encourage people, if there's any conceivable way that I can help you, by all means, I'll do what I can. It gives me great, I think, being generous with my time and the experiences I've had, it's a great satisfaction to be able to contribute back to this world that, even though I've had a lot of frustration, a lot of difficulty and suffering in terms of creating a career for myself, I wouldn't trade it for anything. My market is not so hot. I don't really care. I'm doing my best to make it better. I work hard at it every single day. But if I can inspire other people, it gives meaning to my art. Has given meaning to my life. I've been through some terrible personal tragedies over the years, and really art has saved my life. And it's a great means of communication with my kids and my family. And there's even been clinical studies that living with art, as you could see, I certainly do, in no uncertain terms. I work with a hospital in London that is accredited as a museum, and initiate installations of art in the rooms and in the public spaces. And it results in shorter hospital stays requiring less medication, like having a Labrador in an old age home. It reduces anxiety, lowers blood pressure, some of which I could use right now, obviously. But yeah, art is an extraordinary thing that could make the world a better place. And I wish more people came to that realization. We could certainly use it right now.
I most certainly agree with everything you just said. I love it. We definitely need some more art here, and finding that connection between the physical world and the digital world of art. How can people reach out to you, connect with you, follow you along on the journey as we wrap up here the next few minutes? I just want to make sure that everybody has the ability to go out to follow you in all of the places. I know I do, and I'd be so happy if everybody here goes make sure to follow you in all of the places as well.
Well, thank you all very much for listening to me ramble on without much punctuation or breaths between sentences. But you're on Instagram Live, and Instagram is my first port of call, along with Twitter and Discord. I'm happy to supply the Discord address where you can come and criticize me on a daily basis, like most of my fellow Discorders do. But I love it, and I'd much rather engage with people that have spent like $80 on an NFT with me and have something to criticize, because normally in the art world, it's just completely gratuitous, and they have no investment in you or your life or your project. So, like I said, you could reach out, DM, Twitter, Discord. I'll give you the address to the Crypto Mutts group, which is an extraordinary group it's a great community of people. I've received so much inspiration and help from my give and take through the audience of people that are engaged with my NFTs. And I even was able to, most recently, I had this incredibly satisfying experience where I met someone who helped me develop some smart contracts through the Discord of Crypto Mutts. And I ended up helping his girlfriend get a full-time job. And that impacted, amazingly on her life. And just to do those little piecemeal efforts to help people can go a long way. And that's just such a cool thing.
Wow, that's so beautiful how the NFTs can create that connection and collaboration where you can help connect and create futures for others, and they can do that for you, and and people can do that for each other. That seems like what the word community should be about in this world. Maybe you could describe what you believe a community is in the future, or should be in the future, with all of this digital physical integration, especially as it relates to the fine art world moving into the future.
Well, that's a pretty epic question. And it's funny because I don't want to sound corny or cheesier than I already have. But like, you know, we live in such a fucked up world, and I'm in America, in New York, and the political situation here is nothing short of dire. And democracy is at risk, something I never in a million years would have ever dreamt of even, you know, thinking yet articulating to experiencing something like this right now with the, you know, racism and inequality and suffering. I mean, I'm not making light of anything. I take it all very seriously. And I just think, you know, forget NFTs and all of that stuff, but just people banding together to help each other in a humanistic, in the most basic, simple way, just being nice to people and just a little caring goes such a long way. I mean, just being kind, being helpful if you can, being not so self-interested. I mean, look, I'm an egomaniac, just like every other artist out there. I'm not going to deny it, but helping people just makes me feel good in the simplest way, more than making fucking $10 does. I'll tell you that. You know, and I just, it's just easy. It's easy to give time, you know, to try to consider other people and their situation in life. And that's as simple as that. I mean, you look at Trump, you look at this state that we're in this country, you know, with China and the human rights injustices and Russia. It's just, it's pretty pathetic that on one level we advance so far with technology, and on the basic level of people interrelating, it's pathetic. We're failing miserably in so many ways. You wouldn't think like Joe Rogan going on TV for like, you know, apologizing for demeaning a whole race. It's grotesque. And it's just like, what the fuck? It's just so stupid. Like, how could people be so narrow-minded and so, you know, juvenile and backward thinking? So I just, you know, if people just try to help each other a little bit, just a teeny weeny little bit, can go a long way. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm proselytizing or, you know, I'm not. I'm just trying, like everyone else, trying to do well and get by and make the best of my short time on this planet. But if you could certainly be as ambitious as Larry Gagosian and yet try to help other people in the way that is many of us do and can and should. Jesus, I'm going to make myself vomit, but it's true. And that's how I feel.
Wow, wow. I think right here is a great place for you to tell us some of the ways that people could do that, because it seems like, you know, these are some big ideas, but it seems like in the world sometimes people need some ideas and places to start, and how to do that in very tangible ways, because it seems like you're doing it in ways that change people's lives, and sometimes I know for the rest of us it can be challenging to find these small ways that can change people's lives. What are some things you consider or think about when you think about reaching out with kindness and helping others along? And how can that, you know, maybe some ideas that could inspire others who are watching whenever now is?
Did you say inspire or conspire?
As you like. I said inspire, but as you like.
Well, you know, I'm not motherfucking Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi, and I'm not, you know, I've done a lot of selfish things in my life, but I just, you know, it's very incremental, teeny weeny little deeds. Like, you know, I don't know, I don't have a hard and fast answer. I just have my own experience. And for me, I'm old and I've been involved in the art world for 30 plus years, as I mentioned. And by just taking the time to speak to people and to encourage people and to inspire people and to teach when I'm in a position to know, which is not terribly often, but with the little information and knowledge that I do have, I try to share it and to say that there is a way that you could do well. There is a way. I mean, just my life is an example of how through pure tenacity that you can achieve things through never giving up. It's as simple as that. I mean, the main thing is I spent the first 10 years of my professional career deciding what I didn't want to do and how I wasn't going to do it. Have the same job, the same, you know, the same routine. And I was able to get involved with artists, other artists, barter and collect art, and then I was able to sell it piecemeal. And to this day, that still is augmenting the way that I make a living, through piecemeal selling of art that I've accumulated over the years. But just banding together with your friends and, just trying to be helpful to other people. It's very, 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 it's as easy as it sounds. And I can't really give you, more than that. Just be considerate, be generous with your time. And, you accomplish more with other people than you can do alone.
I have so many more questions for you, Kenny, but we've got to wrap up today, and I hope to have you on again soon. Maybe you could just tell us first where people can find you, Instagram, Twitter, spell it out for us.
You could find me. I'm ubiquitous, so I don't have to promote myself or anything. You know where to find me. And I'm not going to get you on Nifty Gateway. I'm not going to sell your NFTs. But I will, if there's any, I'll give you the address of Manifold to get your smart contracts done. I can give you any advice that's within my power to give, and I'm happy. I'll return every DM within a day, and that I can promise. And that's it.
Wow. That's crazy, but you're amazing. I really appreciate having you on here. A little over a year later, after you were on my 100th episode of the Aaron Jack Show with Artist to Art. We're here.
See, you were just some schmuck that contacted me, and I was happy to get on and engage with you.
Yeah, pretty much. And look, we're here over a year later. So exactly.
Trying to get my scanner to work.
Well, maybe this will be a group effort at some point. Figure out technology with Kenny. So do you have some last words for us before you sign off here, and I'll finish up?
I just want to say thank you so much to everyone. I'm just so appreciative for the fact that you want to talk to me and people want to listen, because I had a speech impediment till I was 15, and that's why I never shut up. Now I'm catching up for lost time, and I'm just grateful to have an audience. And I love what I do, and I would do it for free. Oftentimes I do by default. And I'm just grateful for the opportunities that I've had. And people shouldn't dismiss things until they've tried it. And even when they do, look at the bad side. At the same time, you have to give time and give space and consider the positives, and not just focus on the shortcomings of new systems and new technologies.
Thank you so much, Kenny.
Thank you very much. Sayonara. Bye, everyone. Thank you again for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Perfect. I think Kenny's signing off, and then I will wrap up here. So once again, I'm not sure if Kenny's pressed the X button. We'll see what happens. But I'm Aaron Jack. We're on the Aaron Jack Show with Artist to Art. We're here once a week here at Doing Good HQ, where you can have up to 200 people on a smart contract and do that collaboration thing, work together, and 5% or more from any NFT sold on Doing Good gives you that connection to a nonprofit, where 5% or more goes to a nonprofit, and allows the artist to be a philanthropist. So make sure to go follow Doing Good HQ. I'm Aaron Jack at Aaron Jack Line Art on Instagram and I am Aaron Jack 1 on Twitter. Make sure to go follow me, because I'm going to give you more updates and things happening both here in Berlin and around the world. Also on Clubhouse, Aaron Jack. And please make sure, if you're not following Kenny, go follow Kenny, give him a like, give him a comment, share this video, like the video, comment, share a little thing you learned. I really appreciate you being here, the audience, you every week, just really appreciate it. Thank you so much.